are the HypnoChix, and tonight is Thursday, but not just Thursday. Tonight is Thirsty Thursday, intimate conversations with us, the HypnoChix. I'm Victoria Holtz, and this is Joyce Morales, and we're both certified hypnotherapists and life and relationship coaches. So tonight we are going to be going over some questions that people would like advice on their relationships. And we have a special guest tonight. His name is Billy Plunkett, and he has experience with Narcissists, and he's going to apply his knowledge with some of the stuff that we're going to be addressing tonight and have his take on that. So if any of you jump in and have any questions, or maybe would like some advice on something, or if something just resonates with you tonight and you would like to jump in and maybe give some advice to us or suggestions, we're all ears and we would love to hear it. So again, we are the HypnoChix, and tonight is intimate conversations, relationship strategies. And of course, as always, we're going to be applying the ENP concept. That's emotional and physical concept. If you haven't watched already, we explained a little bit of what that was in our first episode, so you're more than welcome to jump onto YouTube and watch the recording. But we will be refreshing your guys' memories tonight, or either just reviewing it for those of you who haven't joined last week. So let's introduce Billy Plunkett. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. I've been a kind of incognito coach for a lot of people. I always counsel people on different things. I'm just starting my journey on, certifying all that. I've worked for the state for 6 years, working with at-risk youth for the California Conservation Corps. That's just teaching people life skills, different work abilities, worked with the Forest Service, CAL FIRE, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, many different organizations, and teaching at-risk youth how to have skills to go into that. That also translates into, figuring out where they want to go in life and stuff like that. So maybe impromptu life coach for younger people, nice. But definitely going more into that direction for my career-wise. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being with us tonight and, giving us some pieces of your advice and experience in this, topic that we're speaking about tonight. We'd like to hear everybody's opinions and suggestions. So, and then
Sorry, I was going to say that we just kind of recently shared the basics of the EMP relationship strategies. We know it's a lot for somebody just getting into it to process. I'm sure you can kind of attest to it. We really spent almost a year learning it.
Yeah.
And how to apply it, and because we also incorporate it into the way that we use our hypnotherapy and coaching strategies, because yes, everybody's different, but we do tend to have some very common behaviors depending on what side of the spectrum that we're on. And for anybody who hasn't seen the first episode, we'll kind of review a little bit about what each personality types kind of priorities are and how they rank them. And then we'll have an open discussion, because there's, like, Billy is really educated himself on narcissism and the different ways that it can play out. And I was also curious on his take on how that plays into the EMP relationship strategies, if maybe at the very extreme ends where we start to getting into like unhealthy behaviors and stuff, if one might be more of like a covert narcissist and one might be more like in your face kind of narcissist. So I'm interested in your opinion, and I think as we look at these, you might start getting more of a feel for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, when we're looking at these behaviors, just know that the more extreme somebody is, I'm a 70 to 75% emo. It is kind of high after, you know, when you start getting like later and later, like, or further closer to 100, then, you know, that they're really unhealthy. You know, I'm not saying that I'm not healthy, but I
thought yours was
admit that I have work to do, and I'm trying to bring it down to become, you know, like more moderate, so that I can be like, you know, a healthy companion for somebody.
I always thought yours was higher than mine. I'm at 85. I'm 85 on the scale. How did I get higher than
down? It was 80.
Oh.
It's been going down because I've been working very hard.
True.
I'm proud of me.
You guys, is there a test or?
There is a test.
How we figure out percentage?
We will totally share it with you after the broadcast. We usually only share that with our clients, but we could put it in the chat for on Twitch and in YouTube. We sometimes will share the link on there, so we'll definitely do that too. Okay, so are you guys kind of ready to take a look at what these the PowerPoints?
I'm ready.
I promise I did my best to keep it brief and cut out the fluff, because, you know,
I haven't seen it, so I'll be in the like unknown just like everybody else, so this is good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because Dr. K, I love him to pieces, but, you know, like sometimes very educated people are wordy. Well, also he was an emo, so there's that.
Oh, yeah, so he well, I wonder if he was, oh, never mind. Go ahead. I'm being wordy.
Yeah, we do that. Okay. From the beginning. Okay, it's going to let me, you don't need to see all my stuff, do you? Oh, I see different.
You have so much email. Throw your junk mail away. I'm just kidding.
I know. Okay, from the beginning. Is it going to let me do it? Yeah, okay.
There it is. All right.
I might have to minimize us a little bit just because, oops. All right, so relationship strategies right there. And we'll explain what an emotional and a physical is. And this is Dr. John Kappas, and he is the founder of HMI, which is the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, which is the nation's only college of hypnotherapy that's actually accredited and, you know, like actually a full college. And it's a year-long program, and they are now having a second year where they're working on teaching even deeper levels of psychology, like somatic psychology and everything else. So it's growing, and it's just really awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and unfortunately he's passed away, so he can't watch the broadcast today, but
he's watching from above.
Yes, his spirit
he's here
is
with us. His spirit with us.
Yeah, his spirit is totally with us. Okay. So he's the one that developed this model, and his intentions for this was to increase people's understanding, and because he was actually really alarmed with the rate of people that were breaking up and having divorces, and he was like, well, how can I help them stay together? So he's married some of the different principles of psychology. A lot of it is behaviorism, and so that it's partly of being able to predict the outcomes and then shaping better ones. So ideally, both partners would want to be in on this. But even if you're not, at least if you're informed, you can use that to govern your behaviors in a relationship, and it will still influence the other person. Later, when we get into stuff, we'll talk about throwing somebody a Twinkie. Which is George Kappas, Dr. K's son, who is now the director of the school. He says to throw people a Twinkie sometimes, because with them being your opposite, they have different motivators, and sometimes we're not as accommodating to each other as we should be. So if we can meet each other in the middle a little bit more, we won't polarize and push each other apart.
Right. We need to learn to compromise. You know.
Right. Okay, so some of the influencing factors are your family of origin and your culture. So, like, say if you're from a more reserved culture, maybe an Asian family, if you may seem less outgoing in the general populace, but still be outgoing for your family. You know, by comparison. And like I'm Greek and we're just loud. So even though I'm an introvert and I'm an emo, I still seem like I'm outgoing just because I'm loud. And the way that I go about things. So we have to take those into consideration a little bit. Like Greek culture, because we have this like thing about being passionate and having kefi and everything, that we would be more of like a physical kind of society, where maybe an Asian culture that's more reserved would be more of an emotional, if we had to like associate it with a culture. So anyway, they also have different relationships to their body. An emotional does not feel their body as much. They have a tendency to run a little bit cold because they're in their head more. Mentally and emotionally, we're constantly up here, and we're thinking, and we're more inclined to, like, intense emotions make us uncomfortable, because we know that usually means that something's unstable. So we tend to withdraw from it because we want to pull away and analyze it, make sense out of it, so that we can come back and deal with it logically. Because high expressed emotions, like say like anger or something, doesn't feel safe to us. And that's probably something that we could work on a little bit. But and then like a physical tends to be more impulsive, but they will run hotter in their body, and they are more inclined to want to be like touched and hugged, and physical displays of attention. So they're a really quick way to kind of tell if somebody's an emotional or physical is if you walk up and hug the person unannounced. If they're like, oh yeah, come on, and they, or the emotional is like pulls away from you. That's a really
what do I do here? What?
Yeah.
You want to
ask first, because I'm definitely an ask first kind of person. So because like with us being in our heads, sometimes we're not even thinking about physical affection, and then being touched, we're like, why? And then the physical feels like rejected, because like, oh my God, you don't love me, I can't even touch you. And I'm like, well, I wasn't in the mood yet, So,
right.
Okay. Anyway, we tend to attract our equal opposite. So the more we are towards one end, like being all the way over here as an emotional, then we'll tend to attract a physical that's equally on the opposite side. So it is worth it to try to come back into the middle. Right? So that it's less extreme, because the more extreme that we are, the faster we'll go into a trauma stage.
Right.
All right. So what sets us apart, even though we do have the same priorities, we rank them differently. And an emotional's number one priorities are their career and financial security. So once we're in a relationship, and after the honeymoon phase kind of is over, and we feel like that, okay, this relationship is secure, I know where I stand in it, whatever, then we'll start to go like focusing on our career, because we're providers.
Yeah.
And we're making sure that everybody's taken care of. So it's not that we love you less, we just love you different. And, our hobbies and our friends, because we need time to unwind, because we tend to focus on work, and then our relationship and family, and then sex. So it's really not super important to us. It's not that we never care, but it's kind of like we need help switching our mind out of work mode into wanting it. So like that's where like maybe foreplay might be appropriate, or just like sitting and watching a movie, or like putting something on to kind of get us out of work mode is beneficial, so that the physical person doesn't feel like rejected because they were like, grabbing on you, and you're like, ew, so like it might help them take it less personal.
If those three things are not taken care of, the three things that are in order here, the career, financial security, hobbies and friends, relationship and family, that
shuts out completely.
That's when the number 4 is very, very low on their priority list.
Yeah. The safer they feel in a relationship, the more willing they are to be with their partner. Right. So, and we'll see how that plays out in the when we're talking about the trauma stage. So again, an emotional's primary behaviors are the business is number one. They tend to be more introverted, and they like to socialize more one-on-one or in small groups with people they feel safe with, versus like going to a concert and having like big shit going on. They tend to be more affectionate in private. So they may not be like, if you have a big family cookout and like all 7 generations of your family are all showing up at the same time, and then they might not want to be like huggy then because everybody's watching. And it's not so much that they're embarrassed, they just feel like it makes them uncomfortable. They tend to think before they act, so that's why they tend to withdraw, because they want to handle things logically and not like not blow up and deal with things irrationally where somebody might get hurt. And they have a tendency to speak very bluntly and literally, but they hear inferentially. So that person, when they hear, we'll basically read in between the lines and try to figure out what that meant. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. So here, Victoria, did you want to do the physical stuff? Oh, real fast, I'll do these, and then if you want to cover the emotionals, and I can also check for some of the stuff we're going to talk about.
You just want me to read these here? Yeah, sure. I was just looking real quick. Did you say we were going live on Facebook as well?
No, I told you I couldn't because it wants to broadcast straight to a group. It's okay. We'll sort it out for next time.
That's fine. I was just wondering because I didn't see it, and I just want to let you know.
Right. That's okay.
So,
so the emotional's primary fears are that that they're being judged and seen as inadequate, and they also don't like conflict.
No, in fact,
sit at the table and talk it out than to have a screaming match.
I don't know if you've been watching it. It's the whole Johnny Depp and Amber.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are such a good example. Well, this is like, again, an extreme, very, 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 very extreme case. But Johnny Depp is such a good example of it emotional, because when he's sitting there in court, he like literally analyzes everything before saying it. It's like takes him a few minutes. It's part of the emotion that I'm like, spit it out, Johnny. But I get you. I feel you.
Analytical. But he also had a very turbulent childhood.
He did. And it's, I won't go too far into it because we're going to probably get into the trauma stuff. But as we always say, the brain goes to where the brain knows. And his mother really resembles a lot of Amber. What is her last name? Heard?
Yeah, she was the same train wreck that tried to break up Jason Momoa and Lisa Monet. But Jason Momoa and his wife tried to kind of break up their relationship too. She's just a hot mess. Anyway, okay.
Anyway, I was just saying that's a good example, but it is an extreme, very extreme case. But just watching him, and once you get to knowing the traits of a fizz and emotional, you'll start seeing it in other people, like their patterns and their traits, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I got your number. Yeah.
I got you.
No, there are defenses. We'll probably cover that in a different episode. Because like we said, we took almost a year learning this. So we don't expect everybody to get it overnight.
No.
Okay.
But when you do get it, it is extremely helpful. And like me and Joyce always say, if you do read the book, it is as if the book is written about you. And and then you start thinking, man, if I knew all of this before, I could have prevented so many toxic relationships. Yeah. Why now? So, it's crazy how accurate the book is and how it can break down your traits and get you to really understand why you do the things you do, why you behave the way you behave, and why your relationships may have failed in the past, or how you can even predict future, partnerships, and how to kind of prevent that from happening again. So yeah, it's a very, very, very good book. So definitely.
And it's this one, and I'll give you a copy, Billy. For
Definitely.
This one. Totally
Yeah.
worth
You
it.
got the
And it
hard
actually
or-
has the questionnaire in the back, but I'm
Oh,
going to
there
give
you
you the
go.
link to the questionnaire so you could, you don't have to wait for it.
Right.
Okay, so the physical priorities, right? That's the relationship is number one. They might even go to the extreme of their work suffering because of their job. Sex is definitely, and physical touch are their primary ways of showing affection. And that's how they want to receive it. Family is second, and then hobbies and friends, and career and financial security. So if their relationship is not going the way they want it to, everything else kind of falls apart.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's really interesting. And that's why, even though when you're first dating somebody and you're getting to know them, it's like, oh yeah, we feel like we're so similar. Because, we do have enough that's similar, and we do sound like we have the same priorities. We just rank them differently.
Right.
So that's one of those things we need to learn to communicate better.
Yep.
And some of the physical behaviors. Do you want me to do it, or did you want to do it, Victoria?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I can do it if you want.
Okay.
So the physical's behaviors is number one priority is intimate relationship, as Joyce was saying. That is number one priority. They do need that reassurance through physical touch. Like maybe they're having a bad day.
Too, I would say that as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like they may be having a bad day or something. And, they need that reassurance through like an affirmation, or either, the reassurance of it's okay. And also that gentle touch on the shoulder or hand to let them know they have that connection. So we're not just talking about sexually, but it could be as a friend as well. Just a physical gesture, like, putting the hand on the shoulder to let them know, it's okay. So extroverted and prefer socializing in groups. So most of the time you'll see physicals being very outgoing and being the life of the party, or, comfortable introducing themselves with, complete strangers. And they might even dress loudly, or, have
yeah, overall they just seem more extroverted.
Yes, so those are the ways you can kind of identify a physical, is through that. But then again, you could be an emotional with physical defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So, but that's further down the line. We won't confuse.
Yeah, that can get a little hairy to understand.
Yeah.
First, we will not do that to you today, because I can, probably soon you're already going to start going to like environmental hypnosis, just because you're being bombarded with so much information.
Right. So we're going to keep it simple tonight. So just remember, usually physicals, they'll dress flashy, and they're the life of the party in a sense. They're not shy to, be verbal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, you want to go back?
Oh, sure. I was going to say, on that point, that if it's easier to remember that an emotional, right? The emotionals and emotionals and physicals want their attention in certain ways, and a physical wants their attention physically, and emotional wants there's like emotional intimacy and intellectual stimulation,
right?
And that's why they're labeled as that. If it helps to kind of differentiate the two, like faster, then it helps. But this is the big ones right here.
Yeah. So like we were saying, they express their affection openly. So, they might see you at the store and they go, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in a long time." And they give you a hug, or maybe they don't mind PDA, public display of affection. They'll hold hands in public or kiss you in public. And the emotional's like, "You're right here, right now in the middle of the store. Yeah, I love you." So, they're comfortable with that. Yeah. Again, they do ask for reassurance and compliments. So they do like compliments and reassurance. React spontaneously. So emotionals, like Joyce was saying they're more analytical and they like to be a little more I don't want to
We
say
like to play
logical, but
safe.
yeah, they don't like to be spontaneous and impulsive. They're like, well, what's going to be the consequences here? Physicals could be like, let's go, just take a drive and wherever, we run out of gas, let's, spend the night there. So it's like, they could be spontaneous.
And of course it's on a spectrum, so somebody might be
Right.
irrational but still be more flexible in that if they're closer to the middle,
Yeah. So it could also be like, oh, let's just go out and eat tonight at a nice restaurant. And the emotional is like, really? Do we have the money for that? And they're like, come on.
Yeah, and then we're calculating how long it takes us to do our makeup and our hair.
Yeah.
And if it's really worth it to get ready for 2 hours, to go to dinner for 1 hour, and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Just enough to drive the physical crazy. So they're like, oh my
God. Right. They're like, you know what? Never mind.
And then I have to make reservations like 3 hours ahead of time just for you to get ready.
Right.
Yeah, and then if they cheat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say they speak inferentially, unlike the emotional who speaks literally. So, and then cheats to punish partner for rejecting them. So that's why they usually cheat, is if they're not getting that physical attention, they are feeling rejected. So therefore it results in them cheating on their partners for kind of like a punishment.
Yeah, kind of like when Jada cheated on Will with her son's friend. Right? Because Will is having...
Is that rapper?
Yeah, Will Smith. Oh, yeah, and then she cheated on with... Yeah, I think her son's friend was a rapper. But...
Her son's friend? Was her son's friend as old as her son? I didn't know about this.
Do you know, Billy?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
It's fun. It's messed up. But yeah. No. I forget the guy's name, but yeah, it's definitely a jumbled mess, battle situation.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both pretty extreme, and Will's been plugging away at his career because he's trying to provide for his family, but because an emotional's way of giving is showing love is providing and acts of service, those type of things.
But he's also getting messed up by doing that because he's, out there being crazy when, it's just him acting out when he really needs to sit down and talk about things when, I mean, don't know if I don't think that's a healthy relationship at all.
No. And it's got to be so hard too, and probably escalates a lot of things, which makes it even more neurotic of a relationship because they're public figures and everything's publicized and in the media. And, it's not like, as if I were to go, somewhere and punch somebody in the face because they said something insulting to my husband or something where I would get in trouble probably legally, but I wouldn't be on the news. I wouldn't be on, magazines. I wouldn't be on the internet,
Not the same level. Yeah.
Right. So that escalates it more, and it kind of seems to me like it's really insulting his his masculinity because everyone's like, really,
you're demasculating him by treating
very
him
much right.
Yeah.
So that's gotta suck.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, and exactly. And see, the thing is that she was punishing him because she feels like she basically kind of gave up her career, and he's always busy. He's not giving her the amount of attention because he's busy providing. And then so she cheated on him for revenge, and then had him on the Red Table Talk and made him admit in public on this broadcast that her cheating was his fault.
What?
He was in the middle of having.
I didn't see that.
Breakdown. Yeah, it was.
Horrible.
When was this?
Horrible.
Yeah.
When was that?
The first one when they were talking about the infidelities, and then they agreed to have an open relationship because, poor thing, he's still trying to make it work, and a physical doesn't really want the relationship to be over, but they, when she's like really extreme at that level where she is, wants him to hurt because she feels like he hurt her.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm going to take away all the things that are important to you because you took away what was important to me. It's kind of tit for tat. I won't say that all physicals are like this, but I would say like this is one of the reasons why it's really important to be in the middle, because that's going to just make your emotional person run for the hills.
Oh yeah.
You know? So anyway, the physical's primary fears are to be abandoned. So whenever the emotional starts to pull away, that's their go-to. They think that they're like, you're going to leave me.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I need to disengage from arguments if it's getting too hot because I want to be rational. I don't want to be angry at you because I care about you, you know? Like last thing I'm going to do is say something ugly to you that I can't take back. So I'm like, okay, well, let's stop now. I need to go calm down and figure out how to handle this rationally. And I get in trouble.
It's healthy to have like a safe word for that. Like,
yeah,
like they learn that in like, you know, different counseling methods and stuff like that. You know, if you know your partner is gonna react way over that they normally would, and you know, you guys come up with a safe word and be like, hey,
you're like pineapple.
Pineapple. Let's come back to it later when I've had time to. And you know, that's also important about reactive abuse too. Like, you know, people need time to go process their emotions, because before they might have just been like constantly talked down to and over, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So like, it's an important thing.
Yeah, because I will say eventually an emotional will pop off, but it's usually because we feel like we've been backed into a corner and we've been trying to self-advocate. Like, I need some space. Please leave me alone. Yeah. Let me go to the other room. Let me calm down. And we've been trying to communicate it, but the physical is so, at that point, so afraid. Yeah. That they won't leave us alone. And then we, like, you know, pop. And then we say, you know, some mean, ugly shit. And then we feel like an asshole about it, where, you know, the other person is, feels like they are victimized, even though it would have just been great if they didn't push us to that point.
Definitely.
Right. And I don't want to gaslight people. It's like, it's your fault. We're both wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and if we could come back to the middle a little bit and understand that your partner is an emotional, or that your partner is a physical, and you can understand that these are what the patterns are, you can stop taking it so personal. And when we don't take it personal, then we can influence the relationship in a better way. So, and these are kind of the basic stages of the relationship. Of course, the honeymoon and the trauma stage. It doesn't always mean that the relationship, like number 3, the relationship's not always going to end. You can harmonize the relationship and go back to the honeymoon stage.
Right.
Yeah.
If you both choose it. But there may come a point where you're like, both of you guys agree that it's not worth it anymore, and that's okay too. It's just whatever is best for you guys. Okay, but what happens when the honeymoon is over? And this is where EMP, they have an overarching kind of, you know, like physicals come forward, because when we're talking about the fight or flight mechanism, a physical's way of dealing with stuff is to come forward.
Yeah.
And we'll even use their body to physically come forward. But an emotional goes to flight mode when they're stressed out. And so as the honeymoon is over and the emotional starts to go back to their natural behavior patterns, we're putting work first, right? Then it starts to, it causes this disharmony, and the physical starts to feel like they're being rejected. And it does play out slightly differently with a physical woman and emo man than it does with a physical man with an emotional woman. So I did outline the 2 different ones, but do you guys want to kind of look at this a little bit?
Yeah. So it says, emo man begins to feel secure and returns focus to providing. Because I'm assuming in the beginning of the relationship, the emo man kind of projects more as a physical until he feels comfortable in a relationship, which then he reverts back to his, you know, normal behavior, which would be the emo that is career focused,
Right.
and his priority is career.
But
and then
they do come forward in the beginning because they're more they're trying to secure the relationship.
Yep.
You know, because we're goal oriented. So the guy would be like, okay, well now we both agree this is a committed relationship. Now I have a job to do. I need to provide for us and give us like a home and blah blah blah. All these things. I need to make sure that her car is paid. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she takes it as him being obsessed with his job and not interested in her anymore. Which is not necessarily the truth, but that's how she interprets it. And because she perceives it that way, she wants more physical attention and more praise. And she will have behaviors of trying to come forward, whether, you know, she's complaining or asking for it. You know, it comes out in different ways. One of the ways is that she tries to doll herself up more and to be prettier and have more like sexy lingerie and things like this to so that she can be more physically enticing, because she thinks that's what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Which that, you know, because like we were saying in the last episode, we have a tendency to treat people the way we want to be treated, not understanding that the other person is the opposite of us.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So she is looking at trying to make herself prettier so she can get more attention. And depending on how high of an emo is, if he's really high, he might not notice at all for a while. And then she's like, you know, starting to feel like she's at her wit's end. And even if he does respond, it'll just be for a little bit, because he'll be like, oh, you look nice tonight. And he'll be like, want to get, sexual with her after maybe he wasn't really initiating sex for a couple months, you know? And so it just kind of devolves into her feeling like her needs aren't getting met. So then she starts to get desperate and trying to make him give them to her. And then he's like, you know, he might give in at first, but then after that, it's going to start freaking him out a little bit and pushing him away.
It's going to be too much. It's going to be too overwhelming.
Right. And because she wants the instant gratification and he's slower to warm up because he's an emotional, then she's going to be like, it's not working. And start to get angry and frustrated, getting resentful and fearful. And then she takes it, like, literally, she takes it as an offense to her. Like he's doing it to her on purpose, which is not normally the case, but she perceives it that way. And then they become more obsessive and stuff. And then over time, you know, she'll might completely just lose herself in a relationship and everything be about him. And she's so like up his butt about it that he loses all respect for her, and he's not even like attracted to her anymore because she's just like becomes a puddle of a person. You know? And then, you know, at that point she may decide to cheat on him out of spite to punish him. And you know, just because somebody is an emo or fizz doesn't mean that they automatically have cheating in their capacity. But if that person is inclined to cheat, that would be why. You know, there's some people that won't cheat because it's just morally reprehensible to them, or, you know, they saw somebody get hurt in their family over it and they're just like, I can't ever do that. But people who do cheat for physical, she would do it to, like Jada did to Will, was to punish him for not giving her the attention that she wanted.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, he's going to retreat even deeper into his work.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a perpetuated cycle.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important to learn how to re-regulate and how to get yourself back to the honeymoon stage and kind of harmonize everything. And this is where, like, giving each other a Twinkie kind of comes in. Like, okay, maybe he's not really in the mood, but he knows that she's a physical. He could be like, hey, you look really pretty today. and just put forth the deliberate effort, whether that might not have ever been like important to him. If you know her hair was orange or black or green or purple or whatever, you know, he's like, I don't care, I love you anyway, you know. But to her it's important, and then being able to foresee that a little bit helps, because when we can throw each other those Twinkies to where we feel better, and she might be like, you know what, I'm being kind of needy, let me back off.
Yeah.
And then he'll feel like he's getting the space, and then he'll come forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and vice versa with the woman. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would venture to say, like, if you guys have ever heard about twin flames.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's a terrible notion. But I think people who are really extreme on the scale tend to feel like they're twin flames to each other. And like the emo would be the runner, and then you have the fizz who's like the chaser.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think that means that they are supposed to be necessarily supposed to be together. I think they're just supposed to work on themselves. Anyway, so the fizz woman will feel really angry and vindictive at a certain point. She may be like belittle him and speak to him harshly, and if she's inclined to cheat at all, then she would do it to hurt him back, so he knows how she feels. Of course, the emo male feels completely blindsided by the whole thing, because he feels like this whole time he was just trying to do the right thing and provide for his family, or for, you know, for the woman. And then if he does decide to leave the relationship, he does it because it's just too stressful. He can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So does that kind of make sense so far?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have any questions or comments before we go to the other way around?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, I just didn't want it to be like I'm lecturing everybody. You know, I want everybody to have a chance to kind of like say what they want to say. Okay. So with a fizz man and an emo woman, it is different. Of course, the emotional retreats and the physical comes forward, but it does have an effect on, you know, their gender does have a slight effect on how it goes down, because when the emo woman this time starts to feel more secure in a relationship and she starts to normalize, then the physical man starts to complain about her appearance. Yeah. So he's not, unlike the physical female, he's not trying to necessarily improve how he looks or work on himself to be more attractive to her. He is the one demanding that she conform to his standards of what he thinks is physically attractive, because he's almost
like a trophy wife.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and
kind of like Kanye. Kanye.
Yeah, and of course, you know, it's the level of severity is dependent on where they are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But you know, as he starts to get bored with her because he feels like she's not taking care of herself good enough, and he's not sexually attracted to her, and she's boring or whatever, he might start to look at like troll social media and look at chicks that, like, you know, he finds more visually appealing. But he hasn't actually committed like physical adultery yet. He's just kind of imagining other people. And then he'll demand that she works on herself, and it might not just be her physical appearance. He could be like, you need to go back to school, go to do some courses, go work on yourself, you know. And this makes the emotional female feel, of course, disheartened, but also, more importantly, makes her feel completely inadequate and destroys her self-esteem. So it's really hard for them to feel sexually attracted to their physical male at that point, because like she feels like this guy's telling her that she's trash. Right? So how can you be attracted to somebody when they make you feel that way? You know, and she may, you know, stop caring for herself completely because, you know, out of like feeling worthlessness or whatever. And then, and then she can give way to like a severe depression where she's just like, again, like the physical woman became a blob of a person. She could too. Yeah. But what is a little bit different is that there's an alternate ending for them. An emotional female could go the different route of complying with his demands, because we do also have a tendency towards people pleasing, right? So we may give in if we don't go straight to depression, we might give in, and when we give in, we will work on ourselves and we'll look better and we'll feel better. We'll present ourselves better and we'll look more social. And then the physical male starts to get jealous, because as we're feeling more approval, more like independent, we don't need their approval so much.
Yeah, but the trauma's still there because the feeling of being inadequate is still lingering, even though they have complied the demands of, looking.
Well, for sure. Yeah, this is definitely still in the trauma stage. Yeah, definitely. And then so once she starts to feel and look like she's more independent,
right. They're still dealing with that. Yeah.
Yeah, then she'll that's when he starts to get jealous and afraid that he's going to lose her, and then he resorts to infidelity. If he's the kind to cheat, he would resort to infidelity as a cry for help, and then accuse her of not being loving or emotionally available enough or nurturing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Basically, you were never there for me. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Which is frustrating probably, I think, for both parties, is because, he just wants to be happy in the relationship, but at the same time, they're both going outside of themselves for happiness instead of making it for themselves, which is why they're dysregulated. Yeah. So, but being that the emo woman is inclined to be a people pleaser, she's going to blame herself, and then she'll renounce all the changes that she made, even though she made them to make him happy, and then she'll slip back into becoming passive, and then that cycle can go and go and go and go and go. And you have more chances of the physical female and the emotional male like breaking up and staying broken up than the physical man and emotional woman, because they can have, like, this cycle can alternate between all of those different options, and it just can become like a never-ending cycle.
Right. Exactly.
So, right. So knowing that, and knowing that, how you work with, or how narcissism is a big part of the work that you do. I'm curious. Now, these are some of the things that why we're attracted to the other personality type, but I'm wondering where you feel that narcissism might fit into this model.
Well, there's different types, of course, right? Mm-hmm. But like the whole time you're talking about all this stuff, I just like seeing little, things there, and it definitely fits in there. It definitely fits in there. Again, just depends on the type of narcissist. You know what I mean? So like a covert's definitely going to be more emotional. Going to use the emotions to manipulate other people and stuff like that. And then the grandiose would be definitely like more physical and up there. And the hard part about that is when we're talking about this model is, it works if people are like healthy and are doing it together. But if like you're trying to do that with like a narcissist or something like that, like they're not going to see any of this stuff. Well, depending on where they are on the spectrum about it. Right. So, but yeah, it was just crazy when you're going through all that. Definitely, like, it's crazy because I feel like I'm directly in the middle on that, and that sometimes I feel like I'm way more on one side and I'm way more on the other side. So I definitely want to take that test.
Okay, yeah. Definitely. We're definitely happy to share it with you. Yeah.
But definitely, like, all these things definitely fit underneath there, and how an emotional or a physical is created is directly, probably from their childhood and their adaptation and all that stuff
it's developed by technically the father or the father figure.
Both. Because whoever the primary, basically, an emotional is developed because they learn that what people say and what they mean are not always the same thing. So, usually it's their primary caregiver is inconsistent. So they're having a hard time, like they can't take anything literally. Like if you tell me, I don't know, that you like my cooking, I would be like, I wonder if he really does, or if you just said that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of the way that we grew up, then our primary caregiver was hit and miss about it.
Yeah. I feel like mine is crazy because it's so much in the middle, because like I'm always thinking about a billion different things over like the simplest thing, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just like a lot of the physical ones are there too. So it's, I don't know, it kind of makes me want to think back about how I was raised and stuff like that, and try to figure out how that, got up in there,
Yeah, I mean, well, according to Dr. Kappas, the sexuality, the EMP sexuality, I know the suggestibility is the primary.
No, you're right.
Which is the mom, which is the mother figure, and then the father. If you look at your father, and if your father was a physical person, he hugged you, he showed you affection, then most likely you could be a physical. If he was more work related, like work focused, and he was hardly home, but he liked to show his affection by maybe making sure the rent was paid, so he provides a roof over the house, over your heads, or buying you something like, here, son, I bought you this because you've been wanting it. I love you. See you later. I got to get back to work. Then more than likely he was an emotional. Well, how do you remember your father? Was he more of a huggy kind of person? Was he okay with it showing affection to your mother in front of you?
Well, that's a weird thing for me, because like my real dad left when I was like 5.
Okay.
So that creates another whole set of issues.
Did you have a stepfather or an uncle or anything that was there a lot?
Well, then I had a stepfather the rest of my life. You know what I mean? But so yeah, it was kind of like half and half. Like I grew up with 4 other siblings, so like both my parents are at work a lot. But when they were around, they were very, physical.
Affection.
So I guess that kind of plays in me being in the middle then, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and really, being closer to the middle just means that you're more securely attached, which I think is great. Because even though like Victoria and I are a little bit more on the higher end, we don't advise people to be that way. It's just because we've been in narcissistic relationships and we are emotionals, that it just made us a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It nudged us up a notch. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
well, both my parents were there. They just never were physically affectionate. They were raised to be that way. So, of course, that's the way they raised us, was not to be really physically affectionate. So it was more like, well, I'll show you affection. I'd rather show you how much I love you than, with being servient than it is to like, let me show you by hugging you or giving you a kiss or whatever. So that's why I'm so high up there, is because both my parents, even though my mom is the fizz, my mom is the fizz, my father's definitely the emo, but both were never physically affectionate.
I see, and one of the things, so we can talk about this a little bit later too, but like 2 emotionals can date each other, right? But then one of them is going to be slightly more physical than the other person, because we just co-regulate with each other, and then there'll be a little bit of the polarization, where like 2 physicals can also, usually they're the ones that would cheat with each other.
Yeah.
But then after a while, it would burn out and become mostly platonic. But the reason why I don't normally use mother figure or father figure is because And I use the terms primary caregiver or
secondary.
And my reason why is because I grew up in a broken home. My dad was a high fizz. My mom's a high emo, and they broke up when I was 3. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So, yes, my mom was my primary caregiver up until I was 3, but my dad fought to get custody of me. So then he became my primary caregiver, and everything got switched around.
Yeah.
And he
definitely when you're developing too.
Right. Yeah. And then so, where they say that your suggestibility is supposed to come from your primary caregiver, right? Yes. And that's how you take information in, and it's why I'm, you would say I'm incongruent because I'm a somnambulist, where like I can go in pretty quick into hypnosis, but as far as my behaviors, though, I'm guarded.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
anyway, defense. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it does get deeper. It's just we're at the surface right now.
Yeah, and we don't want you to just like your eyes to glaze over and just pass out.
No.
Information.
Completely, all fascinating. Like I'll enjoy every second. Don't worry about that.
Okay, good. So like the kind of cliff notes of it is that we're attracted to our opposite because they are good at things that we suck at. Right? Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's also the thing in the end that drives us nuts. And we need to learn how to come back to the middle a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So that's the end of those. Let me stop screen sharing. Do you have some, I know we had some Reddits picked out.
We do. We talk
about them for a little bit because we got about 20-30 minutes left of chit chat.
Okay, so we found some. We went on Reddit to just check out, what's going on up in there, and what are people, or some people, wanting answers. Like, what's the most common thing that we can kind of see here, so that way we could just get an idea. Maybe we can give examples of the EMP concept with some of these questions that people are asking for advice on. So we found some interesting, very interesting, in fact, questions, but we're trying to keep it questions that that correspond, now I can't talk, that are correspondent with the EMP concept to kind of, or even narcissism, so that way Billy can kind of throw in his,
especially because
knowledge in there.
They do, I think, my personal opinion, and I'm glad that Billy said it, is that I think that actually, at the far ends, they both can be narcissistic in different ways. Where the covert, would maybe, like an emotional, might do more people pleasing to get their needs met. Whereas, a grandiose narcissist would be more in your face, demanding, kind of even like coming forward physically. So I think that it's possible that there's narcissism on both sides.
Oh, definitely.
And I think like where Dr. K was saying, when you start getting past like 80% on either side of the spectrum, and it starts to multiply exponentially. So like the differences between being like in the middle and then where you're securely attached, and the difference of being like 5% is like no big deal. But the further you get out to the extremes, the bigger of a trajectory difference that makes for you.
Definitely.
So okay, so I know you were looking, Victoria, at some. Do you have any?
I was, and I know Billy has some as well. So did you want to go first, Billy? Since
I had 2 out of the 5 that I picked, but
we'll have to check and make sure they're still there, right?
Do you need
I'm saying.
Well, and again, while he's looking, if any of you, whoever's viewing this tonight or some other time, if you have a question and would like some advice, you're more than welcome to either, leave a comment or put it in the chat, or if you want to, some personal, advice, you can always reach out to us personally. or if you want a session, you can book a session with us one-on-one. And
Now,
we'll provide the website.
Are you taking any one-on-one folks right now, Billy?
What was that?
Are you seeing anybody one-on-one for I
What do you
know
mean? For like my own stuff, or like?
Yeah, like I know you're doing your own kind of podcast with your friend in your group on Facebook, but are you open for people contacting you for advice at the time, or do you want to? Are you waiting until you relocate?
I mean, like, I have to prerequisite or tell everybody up front that I'm not a professional at all. But like, yeah, I'm completely open to anybody contacting me about anything. Like, I've just had a lot of different life experiences, so like, and I do that already. That's why I kind of want to get into this. So, but I'm not a professional. But if you'd like to talk, anybody can contact me.
Well, there you go.
About anything.
We're gonna recruit him to the dark side. No, just kidding.
Yes. Well,
we'll have him. What's his name that likes to do the firewalking stuff? Tony Robbins. Will Tony Robbins baptize by fire? Get your feet wet tonight so that you can just already have like clientele lined up for when all your paperwork and certification stuffs are done.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, out of those topics, I just had like the cliff notes or the topics in general. But like I said, when I went to try to look at the Reddit posts, they're gone. So I have like I said, I have like the topics. You have the topics too.
Right. That's okay. I guess we'll just pick some at random.
Yeah, let's just pick some random ones and I don't know, go from there. Some of these can be kind of what's the word? Nasty.
So we will edit them appropriately.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to like edit it as I read it. So, all right. Do you want to go first, Billy? You want me to go first with the ones I find?
You go ahead and go first.
You're still looking for yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the first one I found here was the title is "Girlfriend Cheated but Confessed Immediately." So here's his story.
Okay.
Or her story. Who knows? I don't know. It doesn't say if it's a male or female. Okay. So my girlfriend went for a reunion at her school and cheated with a former classmate. They didn't have PIV sex, so I guess that's actual intercourse, right? But they kissed. He gave her oral, and he, did
stuff. He did stuff.
Yeah, with the So she was fairly.
It counts.
Yes, it does count. It counts very much. Okay, so she was fairly drunk at the time, and when she sobered up, she called me crying in the middle of the night and gave me all the details. She is begging me to give her one more chance and is willing to do anything to earn my trust again. It's been 1 week, but I still ain't. That's what he says. I still ain't make up my mind. I am mad, but if somehow she can assure me that it won't happen again, then I am willing to let it go. But how does that happen? She has promised to not drink again unless she is with me, but what more can be done here?
Wow. Well, I would definitely say he's an emo and she's probably a fizz.
Yeah, most definitely. Absolutely. I mean, we don't really have a lot of information here. We don't have details of all the traits.
I would just tell by like the way he wrote that, or way, did it say it was a girl or a guy?
So it didn't say if the one who wrote this was a girl or guy, so it just says girlfriend cheated.
And honestly, the AMP model, even though the way the book is written, it's mostly male and female, it does apply across genders. So if it's a same-sex relationship, but we also know like same-sex relationships, usually one tends to present as more masculine and more feminine,
Mhm.
regardless
Right.
of, you know, who's who.
Mhm.
So then that would, I actually want to have some open conversations about that to see how the model fits them. Because I know that it still happens, but does it change if it's because one feels more masculine than the other or not? Does that make a difference in the same sex relationship? I'm curious. But
Yeah.
given the context of what you read, I would
Yes.
agree. I think that the person who wrote the post is
An emo.
an emotional, especially because they were willing to forgive it
Yes.
and
Yeah.
try to move forward from it, which seems to be like he's trying. It sounded just by even the way that it was written that they're trying to rationalize
Right.
their next step.
And it seems like, I mean, she called immediately. I mean, which is great. I mean, she's being honest, but how long was she at the reunion before this happened? You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you had a sexual attraction to an old classmate and you're in a relationship, especially being, well, this is his girlfriend, but still, if you're in a committed relationship, you're like, I better not drink, or at least drink around him because I don't want stupid crap happening. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure she was there long enough to kind of prevent that from happening. So it's like, is she trying to, you know, punish this boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever
Yeah,
the
she could be
situation?
having remorse for it, but it doesn't mean at the moment she wasn't trying to punish him. Because if like, why do people cheat? Because they're
Yeah,
their
but
needs aren't being met.
right, but as an emo, they would probably wait a lot longer to admit that happened because they want to rationalize it and analyze it and like try to come up with
Maybe.
a rational reason as to why. And she was just like, he said she called that night, like right after it happened, and gave details. And I won't do it again. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's so very impulsive to call. And what do you think? Do you think? I don't know. She kind of lacks the empathy because she's like,
Well, I mean, obviously, she had. Well, again, it's all situational. But like,
yeah,
again, you don't know if she's doing that out of revenge. Maybe she wanted to call and tell him right away because wanted to hurt him. But at the same time, she feels bad for doing it.
right.
So I don't know. It's hard to tell. You know.
That's kind of sketchy, huh? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you do if you were in her situation and things happened? You went to a school reunion and you know, maybe one of your classmates' ex crushes or ex girlfriends you were with, you guys had some drinks and one thing after another. Would you call your boyfriend, girlfriend, if you're in a committed relationship, be like, oh my God, I just screwed my classmate, you know, here at the high school reunion. And he did this to me, he did that to me, and I'm so sorry.
Especially with like all the details. Was that necessary?
Right.
Descriptive
That's what I'm
about it.
saying.
Like, how much you want to bet that's all stuff this guy wasn't doing for her?
That's what I'm saying.
Too. That's what I'm saying. Example for me though would be like what Joy said before. I've had trauma growing up to where like that's just I would never be able to do that. I don't care how many drinks you dumped into me.
Right.
Whatever I was doing, I could cheat on my significant. And if I did, I probably shouldn't be in that relationship, so I just end it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I would.
And I think that's really going to screw it up because he's going to have trust issues, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously he already does. That's why he's asking for advice. Like, where do I go from here?
Right. Yeah.
And if you're an emo too, like he's gonna, he might forgive her, but he's probably not gonna forget, and he's gonna be super insecure about it, depending on what kind of work he's done with himself or whatever. Like, if you're an emotional, that's gonna be in your head all the time. Like, what's gonna happen next time you go to a reunion or
or go to the store or go anywhere.
Right. So one of the things that we didn't even really mention in that behavior patterns that we're talking about is that when the emotional is made to be insecure like that, like saying an emotional guy, he will come forward for a while, and he will come forward and want to try to fix it. So in that way, he does present more as a physical, but because it's not his nature, he can't sustain it. Where like a physical can just keep coming, but for an emotional, eventually they're like, this is too much work.
Oh yeah.
You're not worth
Oh
it.
yeah, they shut down. So
yeah. So like there might be with the fidelity or infidelity, there might be a at first reaction of trying to like make it work, or even trying to like maybe perform for her sexually in those different ways that the guy did for her.
Yeah.
But then in the end, I think his resentment is just going to make him shut down.
Oh yeah, he's gonna, female or male, they're gonna be too much in their head. Like, am I even pleasing them? Am I not good enough to them? You know, am I not good enough looking?
And that can affect their sexual performance, because then when they're trying to be in it, they're still so stuck in their head.
Yeah, and then they're thinking about the things they did to that other person, with the other person, you know?
I wouldn't say that
they're so stuck in their head.
Jealous, but we do get insecure.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, you've basically said you were with that person because I'm not enough.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then just because you came back, like now I'm going to think I'm always not enough. And that anytime, there could be more times in the future, because like, how is my value going to go up? Exactly. Without me basically not being me.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I think personally, it was a punishment type of thing, and rubbing it in his face, because more than likely,
why are you that descriptive? Why are you that descriptive?
Exactly.
That's
Are you trying to justify it? Are you trying to justify it? It wasn't actual sex. I just did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And then trying to quantify, it wasn't real sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Sex.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very interesting. I mean, I've been pretty damn drunk in my life, and I not once ever have been to a point where I don't know that I'm going to be intimate with someone. Like, I know some people can't handle the liquor and they do stuff like that. And, but obviously she called right away. You know, it wasn't the next day after passing out and realizing, where the hell am I? Oh my God. I ended up, screwing my classmate at this high school reunion. This was like immediately. So it's like, she had to been having some, So I'm like, that your drinking excuse ain't flying with me. I'm sorry, you're drunk. Yeah, I don't know. She had to been coherent. I think she just using that.
She could have been drunk on the phone. That's why she told him all the details. But still, that's
but she's acting like she wasn't coherent. She didn't know what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I was drunk. I didn't know. It's like
we don't know how sloshed she was on the phone when she was telling on herself.
Yeah.
Because she may, if the booze wasn't in her system, she might not have told on herself at all.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, true. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Okay. So do we have another one?
I just, like I said, I just have the topics. Like, I don't have the actual, description of what happened. So.
There was some that don't have to do with infidelity that I have on here still. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think now that you've kind of heard the thing, that this will make sense to you. I don't think I want to live with my girlfriend anymore. Right? Me, male 23, have been with this girl, female 20, also 23, for almost 4 years, and we met in college and started dating in our second year. And since then, we've pretty much done everything together. And we've graduated since. And she really wanted to move in and get an apartment together, even though I was really planning on going back home to my parents to save money and to help my family. She basically told me that if we didn't live together, we would break up. And I really didn't want to break up because I did truly love her, so I caved. I think you guys are already getting a feel for it. Okay. this year living together has been really nice for the two of us. And obviously we have our issues and things, are mostly good. However, I still feel like I want to go back home and live with my parents. And I feel like I'm missing out on so much by not living at home with them, including a lot of my niece's first year and other family things. My parents are getting older, and so I really want to be able to lighten their load. And after all, the stuff that they've done for me. So, let's see. It's only been a year that I've gotten out of college, and if I lived at home, I wouldn't be worried about money as much as I am right now. And while in college, I was always just scraping by. So it would be nice to not have to worry for once. But I also feel like I'm missing a ton of independence because the relationship in general. I don't have time to do the things that I would like to do because she's always requiring my attention. And that's another reason why I always feel like I'm missing out on family things, because she doesn't like to visit my family, even though it's really important to me. So, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And then the edit is, thanks for all of your responses. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of comments saying that I'm being too dependent on my parents and that I'm not trying to an adult or something along those lines. And he's like, that's not the issue. I would just like to be more financially stable. And he's questioning, like, is that so bad?
Right.
And I don't think that he was losing his adult privileges, responsibilities by living with his family. He's just Mexican. And, so there's the cultural influence right there. Family's really big and very important. And I know it isn't the case for everyone, but it's very common, which it is, for young adults to stay with their parents until they're married and they're financially secure. And it goes on a little bit, but that's basically just some cultural context of why those are his priorities. So knowing some of the stuff that we looked at, who would you guys think is who?
Oh, you know who I'm going to say.
Oh, of course I do. That's why I picked it, because I felt like it would be really great for people to get the hang of it.
Yeah. So what do you think, Billy?
It sounds like she's the fizz and he's the emotional. You know what I mean? Like, he's over there caring about his family, and, that was a pretty thoughtful, thread too. And she's just like, I just want you to be around me all the time.
The abandonment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the abandonment. And I think it's not only he wants to be with his family, not that he doesn't care or anything, but it seems like the priority is what? Finance.
Financial security, yeah.
Financial security.
So thinking about his future.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, though, she's saying, I'm going to break up with you if we don't live together.
Right.
But
and then there's the people pleasing, because he's like, he did it even though he didn't want to, because he was trying to make her happy, but now he's miserable about it. And now he's like, how do I get out of this? Like, without making it worse.
Right.
Yeah.
So how would you resolve that? How could they meet in the middle? It's like,
tell her to kick rocks. No, just kidding.
You're a young man. Move on. You're a young man. Move on.
True.
She might not be terrible. I mean, he did say overall the relationship is good, but I think she's going to need to be more flexible. And I don't know what her financial situation is, if she can live on her own or if her family is close enough, But I'm wondering what compromises they have available to them. Maybe if the house is big enough and the parents are accepting of it, they could both move in.
Yeah.
That way she doesn't feel like she's being left out.
Seems like they've been together. They've been together for a while too. So it'd be like,
it's about 4 years, he said.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you'd think at that point she's already maybe met some of them or something. So
yeah.
That would be the best compromise, right? I mean,
well, Billy is actually, Billy's correct though. He needs to break up with her because as a fizz, she ain't gonna let go. No. If he goes, okay, fine, okay, well, I'm gonna move back with my parents, and if we gotta break it off, we gotta break it off.
Yeah.
2 seconds there. No, I don't want to break up with you. Please don't leave me.
Yeah.
Well,
so
actually, you know what? As you were saying that, I was like, you know what? If he does, she would move in with him.
Yep.
because right now she's trying to flex to get her way, and as soon as he rejects her, then that she's gonna crack, and then she'll give him what she'll give him. She'll give in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Some tricks of the trade, right there.
Yeah, because there's sometimes you have when they're really at the extremes, they're emotionally unavailable, and especially like say a physical has an emotional defense. It's very hard for the other person to get a clean read on them, to understand what how they should act to make the other person happy. And then that's one of those weird relationships that it can drag on for years, even though you're not technically ever together. So that they need to work on either healing or breaking it up. But sometimes when a fizz with an emotional defense has basically been... Oh, okay. We'll go back to the Jada and Will thing again. Because remember, she wanted to be with Tupac. But they were both physicals, and so it was platonic because he wasn't feeling her like that. They never actually got together. And even though she wanted him and it didn't get together, so she always felt rejected. And like even Willow wrote that letter, like wishing that Tupac was still alive, or if he's out there somewhere, come back because my mommy really misses you, whatever. Yeah, my God. It's like crazy.
I didn't even read that. I'm like, what?
No, oh my gosh, it's so bad.
I knew she was with Tupac, but wow, God, poor Will Smith. He must be feeling really,
Yeah, that's what I feel like. He was at his wit's end that day. I don't know if they fought before the Oscars started and they were just like trying to keep their shit together.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I just know the relationship is not healthy. And even though people tried to give kudos to them for being a non-traditional relationship and being open and stuff, I'm like, I feel like a lot of open relationships are a trauma response. Because I like you too much to lose you, but I also can't really put up with you. So I will share you with certain parameters. And so I don't really think that that's healthy either. But it's an attempt to make it work. But the thing is that she was rejected by Tupac. Can't get over him. Will became the substitute.
Right.
Because when a physical has an emotional defense, they will decide to pick a partner who is logical for once. Because they don't want to be emotionally available again, where they could risk getting hurt.
Yeah.
So that's when they'll go and they're like, okay, well, this person's good enough for a relationship, but they're not so great that I would ever actually fall in love with them. There's no risk of me falling in love with them and getting destroyed emotionally. So, you know what I mean? But then they proceed to destroy their person. The surrogate, they end up destroying that person I would venture to say by accident. Except that some of them, I think, when you get into the narcissistic side of stuff, then it's very intentional.
Yeah, Billy, would you say, knowing from your experience, who do you think, because I've heard like in social media, I know it's time to go, it's after 10, but real quick, I've heard like, it's either Will Smith is a narcissist, or Jada is a narcissist, or are they both narcissists? But different types of narcissists. What do you think?
I would say, like, obviously, like, growing up with Will Smith and, like, seeing his whole career, I don't think he's a narcissist. I think he's a victim in a narcissistic relationship, and he's relying on her for a need that he has, but it's, like, scary to watch. It's like...
Yeah.
It is.
Like... I don't think he is. I think she is, definitely.
Oh, yeah. But, okay, going based on that, do you think possibly, maybe, if Jada is the main narcissist or the only narcissist in the relationship, do you think possibly, because I've been reading a few things here and there about the relationship, like maybe she's gaslighting him to make him feel as though he is the narcissist? Because the whole birthday thing, like, oh, he planned that out. all for him so he can get the limelight and the attention, and it had nothing to do with me. So it's like he's the narcissist. Look at him, he's the narcissist. So do you think maybe she's gaslighting him, making him believe that he is possibly the narcissist in the relationship?
I mean, again, like the big thing about narcissism is manipulation, right? So she's trying to get a reaction out of him, and maybe that is gaslighting him or not. But like, and again, who's to know if they actually know what they're doing or not? Some don't know. Maybe she's saying that she's not trying to get a rise, or maybe she is. It's just.
Well, I just found it strange because, like, it's almost like he's always in agreement with her. Like, yeah, you're right. You know, I was focusing more on myself than, you know, on what you would have wanted. It's like,
but that's, to me, that's people pleasing behavior, because he's just trying to pacify her to get her to calm down.
But I'm just wondering if Jada, I mean, based on social media and them kind of like, you know,
they've been publicly open about the quality of their relationship. Whatever stuff that they've put out there. Yeah,
and the fact that a lot of, you know, social media content is kind of like, oh, she's a narcissist, and it's like, well, if she is the narcissist, could she be gaslighting Will, making him feel as though he is the narcissist? Kind of like, you know, how a lot of narcissists still manipulate and gaslight you, making you think you're crazy. Look at, you're crazy.
It's reverse narcissism. So like, once, you know, some that start become aware will, and know that you're aware about what they are, they'll start trying to make you out to be one.
See?
You know, again, like I was with a histrionic female that did the same thing to me. And like, I was putting things out like, am I a narcissist? And like going crazy in my own head. And I had all my friends that have known me for like 10 or 15 years. Like, Billy, like, what are you talking about? Like, you literally go and try to like help everybody, and like, you never know you to even do one manipulative thing. But for a while there, I was like, what did Joyce say like earlier? Being like a puddle, like I didn't even know who the hell I was. You know what I mean? Like a puddle of my own. I was just like, oh, I'll believe whatever she says or do whatever she says because people pleasing, and don't want her to go. I don't want to crap. But then like, again, it's like that 50-50 where I fall in the middle. But I think like she's definitely probably doing that. I mean, you just saw. I mean, the thing at the Oscars, like he's laughing about the joke, and she gives him one look. You better go do this. It's manipulation going there. You know, it's manipulation and gaslighting for sure.
Well, like we keep saying over and over again, I think throughout the years, it's like publicly she has demasculated him so much that was his moment to shine. Like, oh yeah, I'm a man. I'm gonna fight for my woman. You know what I mean? Like just to showcase that publicly, so that way it's like, oh shit, Will Smith's got some balls today. You know?
And everybody she cheats with is kind of like thuggish.
They're
just
like
the
bad
opposite
boy
of him. So he might have even just subconsciously been, she doesn't actually want me. She wants that. I don't want to lose her. Let me act the way the guys that she's attracted to act. And then, of course, what does she do? She releases a public statement saying that he shouldn't have done that. I'm not a woman that needs protecting.
Brings him right back down again.
Horrible, right? And she didn't do one thing. Like me and Joyce keep saying, we're like, she didn't do one thing to get up and say, or even like make a face like, oh my god.
When he was walking,
she was like,
in her chair. Good. That's what you get. And then once she realized that she destroyed his career, she was like, oh, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I feel horrible for him and
Chris Rock. Yeah.
No, well, what was the other thing that was going on with what's his name? Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. Oh yeah.
I feel for them so much because I was married to someone for 15 years like that, and then later on dated somebody for like 8 months that was the same way, and it's just like, dude, I could like literally feel how they're feeling through the screen. I'm just like, dude, like you never,
your heart
like,
hurts for them.
Will Smith would never act that way. Like, what's like, that's not his own. Obviously, he's responsible for his emotions, but he's being,
it's like brainwashed. Like,
Also, too, we just have a limit. Even the most rational person can only take so much shit before they react. And that's where, like, when we're talking about the reactional abuse, like, you being backed into a corner, and then, you push, like, for example, you push them or whatever, and then, like, oh, you put hands on me. I can't believe that you would ever do that. You're such a horrible person. And you're like, but wait a minute, you were attacking me. Like, I was literally felt like I was trapped. I tried to go away from you, and you would never let me go. And then, like, but then they're like, you're a horrible person because you put hands on me, even though they pushed you to it. And that actually happened to me, where, like, I was trying to get away from my ex, and they were following me into, like, every room. And just insisting on arguing with me about stuff. And I'm like, I don't want this. And I would just like, I just want to be alone. Leave me alone. And I would like, we had a rule, which was a stupid rule, and I'm never going to agree to this again, but to never leave when you're angry. Cause that just made me a prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like what we said before is like, you need to leave and process your emotions. You can't sit there. And again, like I was saying before, you're going to have, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze, but you're probably going to have problems going forward when someone tries to corner you and wants to berate you and not give you your space to go, go through your emotions.
Well, and after that, the next relationship I was in, or, the next serious relationship I was in after that, when he and I had gotten to an argument about stuff, I felt like I was being attacked and I just wanted to calm down. I decided I'm going to go fold up. I just need to like work off my nervous energy. I'm going to do some chores. I'm going to like clean and just fold some towels and put them in the closet. And then, here I am getting it, like follows me up there and starts fussing at me and accusing me of hiding from him. And I guess maybe subconsciously I was, but I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to unplug so I could be rational again, because I needed to re-regulate so that I could feel safe. And like, because I'm all about, let's sit at the table, put our cards out on the table and deal with this in a way that benefits everybody. Or at least as much as possible, like I know certain things maybe you can't completely, compromise 100% on, but you could try, but, but yeah, just when people are kind of coming at you instead of wanting to have a conversation with you, that to me feels very unsafe. And I have to work on that. And understand that just because I tend to attract physicals, that if the person is a physical, that doesn't mean that they are going to be violent towards me. You know what I mean? Because like my ex-husband did choke me in front of my daughter when we were going through our divorce and stuff. So like, when people start getting really angry, I'm like, danger, and I'm like, I need to get out of Dodge a little bit, have a reactionary gap where like, okay, we can't put hands on each other. Now let's talk. You sit on that couch, I'll sit on this couch. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, like in general though, like, emotionals usually need that time to process anyway. Like, whether they feel threatened or not, it's because they want to analyze what's going on and they want to give that rational, answer for you. Right. And at the same time, a lot of physicals, they'll ask you a physical question like, what's wrong? What are you feeling right now? What's wrong with you? And true. Usually the emotional will be like, I don't know. I know something's wrong with me, but I haven't really figured out what's wrong. And then like, you gotta know what's wrong with you. Like, what's wrong? What are you feeling? I don't know. It's like it's because their mind is like going through all these like, like a whirlwind of thoughts.
There's the term for it called alexithymia, where you have your emotions, but you don't have the words for them. Right? Whether we all have the actual condition of alexithymia, or we just are like, because as emotionals we were in an unstable, family home where we did not learn safe expression of our emotions, we may not actually be able to identify them in the moment and need to reflect upon it and be like, oh, I was angry. Oh, I was sad about blah, 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 blah. Because at the time, we just feel this, like, we feel an intensity, but we don't necessarily know what that particular emotion is at the time. So when you're like, well, how do you feel about blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I don't know. And then, and then they'll set a physical off. How the hell do you not know? I'm like,
yes.
Because I don't.
Yeah, it really was. It drives my husband crazy every time. Like, he knows something's going on because I go through that shutdown thing where it's just I'm sitting there and contemplating really deep, and he'll be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing." And he'll be like, "I know something's wrong." I'm like, "Is there something wrong?" And then I start thinking there must be something wrong. And I'm like, "I guess I'm stressed." He's like, "Well, what are you feeling right now? What's going on? You look sad or mad or something." I'm like, "No, I don't think I am." Am I? I'm like, I don't know. But at the time, like when that happens, it's like I literally have these like overflow of thoughts going on in my head, like literally. And it's like I can't pinpoint like if I'm sad, mad, happy. So I just like sum it up and like, I'm stressed. Boom. And that appeases him. He goes, "Oh, what are you stressed about?" I was like, "Oh shit." Where do I start? But it's hard for an emotional to usually explain what they're feeling.
Yeah, and then the more pressure you put on it, the harder it is for us to do it, because when we start, like the blood flow from the prefrontal cortex start going back into our fight or flight reflex, and we're like, I need to get out of Dodge. It's starting to get too intense for me, Yeah,
it's easier if I just run away instead of explain how I feel.
Yeah. Oh, and poor physicals, like that just drives them up a wall. Like, I just want, because they want to fix it right now, which I totally appreciate. But you're a little too intense for me right now.
Yeah.
Like, dial it back. Like, let's have a conversation. I promise if we can talk about it, I won't run away.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, it depends on the situation. Because sometimes fizzes, they want to explain to you what you're doing wrong. Like, you don't do this for me anymore like we used to. We don't do this. And then all of a sudden it's like...
We feel attacked.
The emo's like, really? Wow. So what are you saying? I'm a piece of shit? I'm like... Yeah,
because we make these inferences. That's how we process information. We infer it. So, if you're complaining, that must mean you don't love me, or I'm not good enough for you. And it's not necessarily what the physical's saying. They just are complaining that their needs aren't getting met. Right.
Yeah. It's just the way we communicate differently. So, but
and you would think we would understand each other better because the emotional speaks literally. A physical hears literally.
Yeah.
And speaks inferentially. And then the emo hears inferentially. The problem is the inferences are not the same. What the physical infers and what we read sometimes can be absolutely different. Unless we've been together for a long time and we just know each other really well.
Yeah. And we can start reading each other's minds. That's a whole different process.
And then sometimes when you when the physical says something and then you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But
oh my God, yes.
And that drives them up a wall because they're like, I mean what I said. I'm like, but it was so vague. What does it mean? And they're like, it means what it means. I'm like, but what does it mean? I need to know.
God. Yes. Okay, as Joyce knows, we're I guess remodeling the house in a sense. And we're redoing our whole balcony.
Not in a sense. You have been remodeling the house for 2 or 3 weeks now.
For a month. And we're rebuilding the balcony, right? And this is a good example. This is my husband. Screwdriver. Do you want it? Are you looking for it? What about the screwdriver? Yes, I want the screwdriver. Can you find it for me? What about the screwdriver? Yeah, and he's like, oh my God, never mind. And I'm like, do you want it? Are you looking for it? Which one do you want? So he's like, drives me crazy. Anyway, so that's a good example right there. Screwdriver. That's a a literal statement. I need some inference. Give me some inference.
Yeah, or just more context, so we know which way to take it. Because there was like 7 different ways you could have took that one word sentence.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say, "Hey, can you hand me the yellow fucking Phillips screwdriver or something?"
Yeah, because he didn't even say what kind.
No,
You could have gave him a flathead. He wanted a Phillips, and he still got mad at you. It was like, you were supposed to know.
Yes,
How
was
I supposed to know?
I know what the flathead. I wanted the Phillips, and I was like, "You just said screwdriver. That's it." Well, what screwdriver did you think I needed over here? I was like, I don't know. Yeah. So that is an emo and fizz communication example.
One thing that happens. I don't know if you can, with your experiences, if this would resonate with you, but with I think with the overt narcissist, it would be, or a grandiose narcissist, it would be more on the physical side. So, but my experience with physicals when they get upset is that they want you to tell them what to do.
Oh my Lord, yes.
Because they want to fix it right now, but but at that time they don't. I don't mean this in an offensive way, but it might come out that way. They don't know what to do, so they want to be told. And then at the same time, we're like, I shouldn't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And which is also made worse by the fact that we're stressed out. So even if I wanted to tell you, I couldn't, because now you're yelling at me, and now I'm freaked out, and that part of my brain is not operating at full capacity. Yeah, it locks up, and you're like, I don't know, and then they're getting more mad, like also when they go, well, when have I ever done that? I'm like, well, actually a lot. Like, name one. Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it locks up because we're afraid we're going to get the wrong answer, because if we get the wrong answer, they're going to get more pissed off.
Or even if it is the right answer, they're still going to get mad.
True, yeah. But they'll get more pissed off if it's the wrong answer.
I think sometimes either when you call it as you see it, that's...
It's a lose-lose situation. So there's no winning.
Well, basically, what Dr. K is saying, that the best way to win is to throw each other a Twinkie. Because if my way of doing stuff, if we did everything 100% my way, it's not healthy. And if we did it 100% somebody else's way, it's also not healthy.
No.
We just need to know that the other person is not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to respect that person processes information differently and has different priority of needs. And since I have chosen to be in a relationship with that person, I need to honor that they're a different person, and do my best to meet them in the middle, and should have the healthy expectation that they would do the same, that they would invest in the relationship enough to at least know you and to accept that you're not them either.
Right.
You know?
Yep. I mean, communication and compromise, I think, is huge in relationships to learn.
Well, comprehension, too.
Yeah.
You communicate all day, but
Very
if they're
much.
comprehending.
Yes.
If they're comprehending, it's going.
Yeah.
One ear and out the other.
Right, because you can communicate, like, all kinds of arguing and different kinds of communicating, but it's not getting processed the right way.
Yeah. And which is good with this model, because they could be a physical suggestible or a emo suggestible. And this way, if you learn what those traits are, you can identify, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm being too literal for them, and I can maybe give a little bit more inference of what I'm talking about to get them to kind of comprehend what I'm saying, or vice versa.
Right. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those with knowledge comes power type of thing. So, because I think we have a tendency to feel powerless when our relationship's not going well.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our same maybe 3 or 4 go-to behaviors when we're stressed out. And then we go, I've tried everything. Well, have you really?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
right.
or did you just go do what's normal for you, and then it didn't work, and then now you're emotionally exhausted.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about learning different tools and having those in your toolbox so that you can have the best relationship possible.
Yep. I agree.
Definitely.
All right, cool. Well, hey, I know it's getting late. I know you have stuff to do, so I don't want to keep you on too much longer.
Yeah.
I have a couple things I got to do.
Okay.
What time is it? 10:30?
It's almost 10:30. But I really
okay.
appreciate you being on with us. I know
Yeah, definitely.
get into like all of the narcissistic stuff, so you're welcome to come back when now
Oh,
that you
yeah.
have a little bit more of understanding of this, because I would really like to see if we could flesh this out a little bit, because it's something we can use with our clients, and as you're building your practice, something you could use with them, and whoever listens to us, I think that would also really be just beneficial for everybody in the long run, so that we can start having more healthier relationships, culturally.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, next time you guys have me on again when you want.
Absolutely.
I definitely learned.
Whenever works for you. We'll
Yeah.
We have our Facebook group. We can our chat group. We can sort it all out.
Yeah, I learned a lot tonight. Thank you guys.
Hopefully, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eyes open, wide awake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eyes open, wide awake.
Go stretch. Have some water.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And
thank you.
Next time we'll definitely dive deeper into narcissism.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I mean, I was good listening to you guys too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we gave you some little pieces.
Yeah, we would really want to give you more time to talk in the future. I know this was kind of more of us teaching, but I'm definitely really interested in your input.
Oh yeah. Send me that test and that book too.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll definitely send you that. All right. Well, thank you again, and thank you for everyone who's watching. If you're interested in one-on-one sessions, again, HypnoChix.com. You could also see our previous videos and this video on YouTube. You can go to Discord if you want any advice in relationships. Just find HypnoChix. Also Facebook, and
we're on Instagram and
TikTok. Twitch.
we try to be on everything so we can get all of you who need help. Okay. So
exactly. We're here. So if you need it, we're here.
By the way, I need Billy to decorate my room, because like my room is so boring compared to his. It's beautiful.
I know. It's so cool.
It's a meditation room.
Awesome.
That's good.
There you go. That's how to do it right there.
Guys.
All right.
Good night, Billy. Thank you. Take care. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you again. Until next time.
All right. See you later.